right. So now we move on to an interview. Earlier this month, news broke of a restructure that sees the breakup of Accor Asia Pacific, an entity that was formed in 2003 by Michael Issenberg. In the wake of the news, he received what he called an outpouring of messages and emotion. And this is a very deep crisis, and it has a very human element. But today is not a goodbye interview. It is a salute to what he's built. It's the lessons we can take from someone who has incredibly deep knowledge of our region and his views on our future at a critical time. Please welcome Michael Issenberg, CEO and Chairman, Asia Pacific Accor. I think you can sit down, yeah. Thanks, Michael.
Good afternoon.
How are you?
Well, thank you.
Very good. Thank you for joining us. So I'm going to start off with one of my favorite quotes, which says basically, don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened, right? And so let's talk about what happened since 2003 when you took over Asia Pacific. And, there are lessons for those who want a better understanding of building a business here. So if we look at the timeline of Accor, I mean, basically, Michael, has basically built a business from practically nothing. And you say that it's basically a business that's worth $3 to $4 billion now.
Well, it was pre-COVID, but now
Pre-COVID.
it will be again, yes.
Yeah. Of course, yeah. Yeah. So you're staying on to oversee the breakup. So breaking up is kind of harder to do than building up, right?
It's quicker, but it's certainly more emotional, that's for sure.
Yeah. So I'm sure you want to leave things in the best shape possible.
Absolutely.
So what's the biggest challenge of breaking up the region into three, which is China, Pacific, and Asia?
Well, the hardest part is creating what was now being called Southeast Asia, because that was relatively disparate. So effectively creating a new organization, and that's taking more or less 3 offices into one, which also means a lot of people will also exit the organization. So that's the hardest part, because there's a lot, you spend all these years building something up, and the key to building it up is building talent. And now having to farewell talent, that's without question the hardest part.
Yeah, I think that's, like the last few months, we've definitely seen some really good people who have left the industry, through no fault of their own. And so it's such an incredibly sad time for our industry, really, So, but such is life, right? Such is the circle of life, And you've been part of an incredible growth story in APAC.
Yes.
I mean, China signing the WTO agreement in 2001, that was the key that unlocked the door, wasn't it?
No question.
That everything just happened from that. Yeah. But, not all global companies have succeeded the way that you have.
Yep.
What do you think is the thing that they most get wrong about this region? And please don't say that Asia is not one market. We know that.
No, we know that. But no. So the problem is running it from afar. Right, so that if you don't have people close to the business, you won't make the right decisions, because exactly that, it's not one market, right? And so we prior to 2003 were running Asia from Sydney, Australia, and there was a point in time when you could do that. Asia Pacific, Australia is part of that nomenclature, but as the growth truly started accelerating in Asia, doing it from Australia didn't make any sense. And that's where you had to be here. And then took the decision not just to be in Asia, but to be in a number of places within Asia. So we had offices in Delhi, we had offices in Jakarta, Bangkok, Singapore, Shanghai, Seoul, and Tokyo. Right? And so and then running that from Singapore and not from Sydney, and certainly not from Paris. Right? So being close to the business, being close to really, and there's 2 elements of it. Well, there's 3 elements, of course. There's the people that own our hotels, the people that run our hotels, and the people that stay in our hotels. And they're all here in Asia.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly the same advice that John Brown of Agoda gave Zero Rank of Expedia earlier, when he said, if you want to be in Asia, you got to bring your A game here, you got to put your A team here if you're really serious about it. Yeah. Right. So, but in some ways, we're going through such an incredibly tough time now. So you're actually lucky to be making an exit, Michael. Right? I mean, you're leaving top of the game, right? And things are just going to go downhill from now on.
Yeah, well, I mean, certainly it'd be a good time to take a break, that's for sure. because the next year or two or three are going to be incredibly difficult. But I actually took over Asia, ironically, when SARS hit. And from crisis comes opportunity, no question about it. So there will be opportunity, no doubt. And I firmly believe that. I believe in Asia. I believe in our industry. Will the next few years be extraordinarily difficult? Yes. I mean, just listen to that previous panel.
Yeah.
Right? That's an extraordinary amount of work for a small amount of business. And all credit too, because you got to start somewhere. But if that's what we have to do to get a few people to travel, you're not going to make any money out of it.
Yeah, but you have to start somewhere, I guess. You know,
100%, I agree. That's what I'm saying. All credit to
Yeah.
them. But all I'm saying is that emphasizes, we're all kind of, today's beginning of Q4. I was thinking, New Year's not that far away, but the virus doesn't really care whether it's the 31st of December or the 1st of January. So it's not like we're going to turn the calendar and things will be okay. We're in for a very tough 2021.
Right, and probably the next 3 to 4 years, probably.
Yeah, look, I mean.
So what are you going to do in that next 3 to 4 years while we are slogging and trying to fight our way out of this abyss here?
Well, I'll probably do a variety of things, to be quite frank. And I do. I believe there's opportunity. And so I will take some time, partly because I have to, because of restraint. But I'll be using that time to think about where those opportunities are, because they will arise. There's no doubt.
Yeah, and Asia like the back of your hand.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
you've been here for so many years. So let's talk about the future, because travel. Our theme is 0.0. I mean, we have come down to nothing really.
Pretty
So
well,
how should Asia rethink its tourism? What should it fix? How can it rethink growth beyond just building and building and building?
Yeah, well, the irony is that pre-COVID, certainly kind of the buzzword, for lack of a better expression, was experiential. And that I still believe is the key, but in the short term, experience involves touching and feeling and seeing and being together. And that's going to be off the table, right? Because everyone is still, even when people start traveling, there's going to be a fear in whether you're wearing your mask or your gloves, and I don't want to sit too close to anybody. I don't want to be in a crowded bar. I don't want to go to an event. But that will change, right? And so I still believe that, because again, what have you missed in the last 6 to 9 months, right? You've missed being with people. You've missed actually being out and doing something different, right? Because I've run a business from home, right? And I've done it via video conference, and it's worked, right? But has it been as enjoyable as it was last year? Definitely not. Not just because business isn't good, but because I haven't been able to be with people, right? I haven't been able to actually go see our hotels, go see the people in our hotels, go see our partners, talk to our guests. What's happening? That was fun. That's good. It's interesting. And when people,
it's stimulating, isn't it?
And that's why people do travel, is because exactly that. It is stimulating. And Asia is a stimulating place, right? So yes, and that's the advantage, is every country is different. That's why people want to go to as many countries as they can, not just so you can tick it off a list, but because it's different, it's fun, and that's what you want, and that's why people will continue to travel.
Okay, so now let's talk about the future of hospitality. Okay, so the future of travel, I mean, has always been experiential, just like we can't do it now, but repurposing of real estates, hollowing out of offices, airports right now. How do you see hospitality adjusting to that new landscape?
Yeah, look, I think leisure travel won't change that much, right? Because for everything that we just spoke about. But the biggest part of our business is business travel. And a part of that, of course, is MICE, right? And that is the hardest part to envision what it's going to look like. And for a couple of reasons. One, putting aside COVID, because people have found different ways to work, will that dampen travel? And I said to you once before, in the early 2000s or late 90s, when technology was really taking off, and people said, well, it'll make less travel because you can do everything by remote. And it was the opposite, because it created more cross-border business, and people still wanted to go see their clients and their partners, so it actually grew travel. Well, now populism is there going to be less cross-border? Governments are talking about, well, we need to future-proof our supply chain, so we need to produce more. We have trade wars going on when only pre-debates and all that, it was all about free trade agreements, right?
Yeah.
That was what people were trying to achieve. And just before Donald Trump came in, there was going to be I forget what it was called, but 12 different countries around Asia Pacific signing a free trade agreement, and he nixed that, right? And that won't be coming back anytime soon. So this time around, with the trade, the changes that technology are going to be beneficial to doing business, but combined with the geopolitical situation, that's the segment I fear most is business travel. And then that's why it's been great actually being here today. And this beats not having anybody here. But most of the conferences that I've been to, networking is a huge part of it, and that's not here. So I do think conferencing will come back in a form, and that's completely dependent on health. But I think that will happen, right? Okay. Because it is more about the networking, and also it's more interesting, more fun to be together than it is just for the people that are watching right now on the screen, because they would have watched some of them and they would have not gone to watch other sessions. And in the past, you would have gone out, you would have met people outside, and you would have had a chat, right?
We're gonna have a debate at the end of the day where we're gonna have two teams, one saying that they'd rather stay at home and not wear pants, and then the other one is saying we'd rather be with people. So we'll see what the results of the debate is.
Well, I have to admit, I do enjoy wearing shorts almost all the time now, but I did put my big boy pants on to come today. So.
Thank you for that. Okay, the other future is alternative accommodation seeming to have a breakout moment. Airbnb IPO being called out as an exciting moment. Most predicting it would be successful. Future changing for hotel companies like Accor.
Well, again, Airbnb was already there, right? And the other thing, even pre-Airbnb, there was a whole industry that existed of using alternative accommodation. Second homes, holiday homes, that existed. So same with transport, Grab and Uber, it was putting a thin digital layer over underutilized assets. So what Airbnb has done exactly that. It's taken which was not being worked hard enough, being used. On top of that, though, what it's done is it's taken inventory out of residential, right? That's now being used in cities for accommodation, and that's still a balance that needs to be struck, and that's actually governments will get involved in that because it's going to make housing more expensive, which has social issues. So it won't just be a smooth ride for home sharing, but it's don't get me wrong, it's here to stay, and it's good. It's another part of the industry.
Right. So when you're speaking to your hotel owners now and say a hotel an owner say I want to build a hotel for in the next 2 years and all that. Would you recommend them to therefore, not have those big ballrooms anymore, but to have broadcast studios like this? And some of your public spaces, could they become cloud kitchens? Just repurpose. What kind of hotel would you tell somebody now to build for, in 3 years' time?
Yeah. Well, that's where, we are very focused on lifestyle hotels, which is a bit of a buzzword. What is lifestyle? But part of it is, when you're looking at a hotel now, you truly got to make every square meter work hard, right? I mean, you always had to do that, but now it's right. Okay, a room's a room, okay, but even those you can sometimes convert to office for part of the time, and particularly if you're in a seasonal market. But with your public space, it's actually I think it's more important for it to be multifunctional as opposed to single purpose, right? Because, and particularly the meeting space, because there still will be demand for big box hotels for large conferences. That will exist, right? But again, COVID will accelerate trends. We were already, technology in a hotel was so important. So number one now is just how fast, how strong, and how good is your Wi-Fi? Because that's what people now stream everything. So that you have to, in the room, it has to be robust. Now even more important is in the meeting space, that the technology that you're installing. I was in a hotel in Siew just before COVID, and it was phenomenal. I mean, they could put a hologram into the room so that those speakers wouldn't be on a flat screen. They would have been in the room, right? And it worked. And then you could also use that for entertainment. So for weddings, you could, it would also add
I mean, if you look at Marina Bay Sands, I mean, he's talking hologram technology, augmented reality, so that technology will actually take virtual meetings and hybrid meetings to the next level, right?
No question. And that's where, if you put, so whilst you might have the same size space, you need that technology to be able to use that space, not just for meetings, but whether it's weddings, whether it's other types of more entertaining types of functions, that's going to be crucial.
So technology is your next real estate, actually. I mean, it extends your real estate to, to the cloud, to the world, right? Not just confined to a physical space.
And likewise, whilst when as co-working, never mind, working remotely will continue to accelerate.
Yeah.
So that even in the whole concept of today's Blur's Day or Bleisure, however you want to describe it, that you're going to always tend to work. You're going to work more often in terms of days, but possibly less in each day. So that when you're traveling, it's so crucial to be able to actually have the right tools to be able to work.
Right.
Right. So that because you might be on holidays with your family and say, okay, I'm going to work 2 hours today, but I need it to be really efficient, or I'm going to work these 2 out of 5 days. And so whether it's in a hotel, whether it's good workspace, but again, coming back to technology, that fantastic Wi-Fi or the ability to access printing if necessary, or whatever you might need to be able to work and holiday at the same time. And that was there before, but it's going to be more important.
Okay,
again.
So I'm just going to wrap up with rapid fire. What do you think is the most misunderstood thing about yourself?
Where I'm from, my accent.
Okay, what would you like to understand more of?
For me, it is technology. That's why I've always relied on Louise.
All right. Please join me in thanking Michael. And thank you.
Thanks,
wish you good luck on the open road.